Today we'll talk about a brand that touches American hearts with nostalgia. Born in the 80s, Vera Bradley brought color to people's lives with their bags known for their vibrant patterns and print designs that brought joy to everyday life. However, despite its early success, the brand struggled to stay relevant with newer generations. Recognizing the need for change, new leadership took the helm in 2023 to lead a transformation. Joining me today here in New York is Alison Hiatt, Vera Bradley's Chief Marketing Officer, to discuss the rebranding efforts and what we can expect from the brand moving forward. Alison will be speaking at Shoptalk Fall, our favorite retail event, now has an extra edition in Chicago from the 16th to 18th of October. There's a discount link for our listeners in the show notes, and I look forward to seeing you there. Here's Paula Macaggi, and this is a special retail innovation series of my show. Welcome to OFFBounds. Alison, I'm very excited that you are here today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Me too.
Well, we have amazing products here. But first, I want to hear from you how you took this job, because I imagine that you have an accomplished career as a CMO. I've seen your resume. You've done great things in your life. And then you decided to join Vera Bradley for a turnaround.
Yes. So a couple different reasons that led me to jump into this. One, loving retail and always being up for a challenge. This was definitely going to be a challenge. I love learning my way through a challenge. The second is you have a great brand. You have a great brand, great founder story, a lot of love for the brand. It's just fallen off of people's radar. So there's a challenge, and there's a challenge there to get it back on their radar with some great products. And then last but not least, it's always about who are you conquering these challenges with. And the CEO that brought me on, her and I had the opportunity to work together previously. And we're former, what we like to say, work spouses. She was running merchandising and I was running marketing. And so we had to really come together and have a productive relationship from both angles to drive businesses.
You were like, can we do it?
Yeah.
We can do it.
We can do it. And she's a great leader. And, we worked together 15, 20 years ago. So coming back together. So you've got great brand, great product, a big challenge, and people that you're working with that you're going to like. It was a no-brainer in terms of taking on this.
Yeah. And do you have an affection with the brand? I feel.
Yeah, I do. I'm really always love anybody that had a vision. So I love the founder story, that is. But for me growing up, my mom was a Vera Bradley, still is today. It was just a method that you knew that you put your makeup in a Vera Bradley makeup bag. And as a little girl growing up, that there's something very special about your mom's makeup bag. And it was always a Vera Bradley and a new one. And then what we get for Christmas or when she traveled, and again, travel when you're little. And so for me, that's what I grew up with, is having a mom that was a way of life. So a very special connection standpoint.
All right. So then you got the job.
Yeah.
You decided to take on the challenge. And How was the brand perceived when we got it? And what did you discover?
Yep. No, great question. So first and foremost, which I mentioned earlier, there was a lot of good perception. It just was no longer relevant to a large portion. It would be people saying, oh, I used to, I remember. So you had these positive associations with people going to college or having a weekend duffel or sleepover or whatever. So you have this attachment to a brand, but they were always talking in past tense. So that was interesting. Of course, we have a core group that never, left the brand and have been diehard fans of the brand. So you have that group as well. But then you have a whole nother group that not even aware. So you had these three different buckets of thinking about what was going on with the brand in that respect.
And what was the process to rediscover what the brand is about?
Yeah, that was one where we're very lucky to have the founders. And both Barb and Pat They're in their mid 80s now. They started this brand when they were in their 40s and have really grown up over time, and they're not involved in the day-to-day business, but you could really have conversations about what they were hoping to create and what really inspired them. And over the past decade or so, I think they had not necessarily been following along with where the brand had been going. And we're pretty excited for somebody to come in, the team, to come in and really get back to where it was, or what they
what
originally...
made it great in the
what made
first
it great,
place, yeah.
right? So that was the place to start, because with branding, the best ones are authentic, as we know. And so you have to go back to what was the original idea? What was the original intent? And that's been one of the things that I have learned is how did we capture that? And then as a company, how do you pass that forward through the generations? So the founders left at some point in time, and then that's really when it started to drift. And so how do you make sure that you define it in a way and embed that in the organization, but also in your customers, so that you're all defining it the same way? And that really was it. And then working with a brand firm to help us do customer research in a lot of different categories. We obviously looked at a lot of data, buying history of our customers. So really balanced approach of qualitative exploration with founders and stakeholders over the years, customer research, and then data. That's really where it started.
I would say it's a lot of work, but it sounds very fun.
Very fun. Very fun, especially if you're building a story and a narrative and you don't necessarily know where it ends. It really is a treasure hunt to understand how to put that forward.
Yeah, so you have like all these buckets of potential clients and already customers, right? So
exactly.
How do you discover the non-customers? I think like the customers you already have a communication with, what the non-customers want.
Right. So for those that knew us, and particularly the largest portion of that group, were people that had a great feeling. It's just all of a sudden one day we weren't a part of their lives anymore. So we went back to understand what bags were they using now? What point in time? And a lot of times we found that as people went and entered the workforce, if you will, depending on what they were doing, they were thinking, okay, I might not be able to have this much color. I might need other fabrics besides this quilted cotton and things of that nature. Over the years, we have done leather. Vera Bradley, it's not as known for it, but we have done leather. We have done other fabrics, nylons, things of that nature. So we realized that we really needed to expand so that we could be relevant to them just as much today, that we had more ways to offer color and fun and prints in different fabrics, different silhouettes that they could use today. So that really was what we were working towards, is closing that gap.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I imagined that, as I said, it was a lot of fun, but you announced the new Vera Bradley on July 11th.
Correct.
You started in the company in January 2023.
Yes.
So that was like about 18 months.
18 months. 18 months. A blurry 18 months. Exactly.
Yeah, and rebranding, it's not something, I don't know, it's not a logo that you change.
Right.
You have to change every aspect of the business, the product, the
Correct.
stores, the website.
Everything.
Like, how was the timeline for you? Like, how was the team engaged with all of that?
It was very compressed, quite honestly, and the team had to be engaged given the amount of change and the timeline that we were doing this change. And we felt really strongly that we needed to change all of this at once, because looking historically, the company had tried a different logo or a different store or a different product, but had never done it all at once to really make that full customer experience feel cohesive in terms of it being the same entire brand. So this is it's easier for me to identify things that we didn't change versus what we did change. And people were very excited about that opportunity. And we used to say there's a continuum. On one side of the continuum, it's terrifying. And on the other side of the continuum, it's exhilarating. And we would ask people throughout different days, like, okay, where are you? Where are you
Where's
on the
your mood?
continuum? Where are you? You know, and that was just a way of being very upfront about the fact that, yeah, it both can be true. This can be exhilarating and terrifying at the exact same time. And just really having that tight communication, a tight vision, and a common focus, all the things that you hear that you need to have great teamwork, those were important to have. But this is also a once in a couple of times maybe in your career that you get to do this extensive of a makeover or a rebranding, which is also very exciting.
Yeah, how our stores are going to look like? What is the customer journey through our website?
Exactly.
What is the product that people want?
Exactly. What are our ads out in the world going to look like? Where should we even put these ads? What do we want people to feel when they see those? What do we want people to think? You name it.
What people should feel when they see Vera Bradley?
It's a great one. We actually spend a lot of time thinking about this, and you really should feel joy, but empowered joy, because Vera Bradley is really about encouraging and inspiring women to just be bold and brilliant in their pursuits, but also in their fashion. And adding a bag or color or what have you is the way in which we can do that today and create your own style, your own look. So you want to empowered, that's coming from within, because she is feeling empowered because she is selecting what makes her feel good and look good. And it's playful and it's fun and it's joyful. So those are the two things that I want
Did you
people to
also
come.
get that from the founders, that they felt empowered?
I do. So you go back to the story, you have Barb and Pat, they were friends, their kids were going off to college, they had a wallpaper business, so they were sort of entrepreneurial spirit. They had this like, let's make it happen attitude. They were sitting in an airport and they had bags, so they didn't need a bag, but they kept on looking as people were walking by and saying, what? There's not a lot of color in this airport. So again, this is 40 plus years ago. So what they really wanted was color and to just brighten up the world, if you will. And that's really inspiring. And they go and they find fabric and they start making these bags, and then they sell them to their friends, and then they take them to visit their daughters in college, and their daughters love these things. And then it went from there. And they were really some of the OG female founders.
Yeah, like that feels very empowering.
Very empowering.
Especially in that time that it wasn't that usual to see working women.
Exactly. Ahead of their time in that respect. So that is very inspiring. And they're still, I hope to be where they are when I am in my mid 80s, because they are just very much travel and explore and art and involved
and colorful.
They're just very involved and inspiring in different areas now of the world.
Yeah, but the part of the rebranding that really gets me thinking, and I think there's no recipe. Like everybody gets very, frightened about the culture, right? Because rebranding, as I said, we have to change the stores, the website, everything, but everybody has to change. Everybody within the company has to change.
Yep.
How was the culture shift, or is it still happening? And how much that reflects on the CMO?
Yep. Yeah, it's interesting because this brand has such a following, both in the consumers, but really the people that love this brand, that work for the brand, and they want to see it succeed. So from a culture standpoint, you have a group that is putting the brand above themselves in terms of, hey, I might have a different idea of how we want to grow this, but that might not be working right now. So let's try something different because I really want to see this succeed. Those are how a lot of conversations went. It is challenging. It is very challenging if you've been working on a brand for, let's say, 5 to 10 years and you were thinking it was about one thing, and then you have somebody coming in to say, actually we went back to the brand roots and we're thinking that we need to pivot a little bit. It's drifted in the last several years from what its original intent was, for all the reasons that we can go back, but let's get it pivoted in the right way. That takes a lot to rewire and get people thinking differently about how to connect with the consumers and what does the product need to look like. And so from a leadership standpoint, as a CMO, one of the key jobs is keeping that vision, if you will, ahead. People want to define it very easily. Some people will say, well, Vera Bradley is about print. A lot of companies could say they're about print. That doesn't distinguish us. What really distinguishes us? So keeping people challenged to think about truly what is different about this brand than others, that is something you uniquely need to do and continue to bring the customer and the outside world in to make sure that continues to be a part of the conversation.
I was checking a lot of TikToks about Vera Bradley. It's part of my research.
Yes.
And that was a lot of fun.
Yes.
I saw people going to the stores, trying different sets. This one goes with this one will look good at this one, which I really liked.
Yeah.
And that made me wonder if that would be part of a KPI if people are using, I don't know, user-generated content,
Yes.
or what are the KPIs for a good rebranding?
Yeah. In this one in particular, because we know that we have great product and we know that we just need to get awareness, that will be a big KPI for us relative to where the market is today, and consideration, quite frankly, because we know that we have products that we all need and we all use, and women, myself and friends and what have you, that are using day to day. So how do we make sure that we're thought about as a solution, but also part of that fun of the way in which she's creating her look? So awareness being a big one, consideration being another one. And then honestly, to your point, user generated, I think that's been really popular on a lot of our, with our TikTok and our Instagram. It's been really popular to share how other people, I think growing that community, it's not about followers for me, it's about the community that you're growing there, that everybody is contributing and showing up and sharing. That also is a KPI, but for the true community versus followers, if you will.
Yeah, I really liked how they were combining products.
I did
this
too.
One goes.
I did too.
Nice.
And that's one of the things when you go in to the store and the new stores, it's very mix and match. And it almost like you're curating your own piece and look. And so you could go into the store and I could, and we'll come out with completely different curated pieces. And I think that's a side note to just overall the brand itself. One of the things we talked about was Vera Bradley is known for flowers. And so our metaphor for each season is putting together a bouquet for our customers each season. And the bouquet is all these different prints and colors. And we pull that together in a very inspired way and give that each season. And our brand color is green because we're always going to be the stem of that bouquet. And each season we'll come out with different flowers and what's in season and what's not. And everybody puts their bouquet together differently. Here's what we've given as that bouquet to our customers. So that was also a metaphor to help uplift beyond product, if you will, to like truly what are we gifting each season?
Yeah, and I love that we have the products here, right?
Yes.
Like, these are totally my bouquets.
Yes. Yes.
And different. So you see that it's not print, right? Like
Yes.
It's not what you're traditionally known for. Is that new ways to express the product, to express the brand?
We've always had a lot of sales in prints, or in solids, excuse me. We've also had it in prints. But we were more known for our prints. And so we're balancing that because there's times where you need print and there's times where you need solid. And then if you were to open up my solid bag over here, you're going to see there's a lot of print in it because I have all these pouches for my cords or my lipsticks or whatever that are just fun and for me. So there's times where I really want to have a cute printed bag, and then there's other times where I need to have something that's a little more neutral. So I think that was just part of us is saying, we've had solids, but let's just show them and let's put them in silhouettes and in fabrics that we know she is liking today. Again, we've always had leather, we've always had solids, but let's just make sure that we're making that more known.
Absolutely. Well, if you haven't seen them before, here they are.
Very colorful.
Yeah. Well, and of course, you know that we have this partnership with Shoptalk. So
Yes.
It's going to be Shoptalk Fall in Chicago, where we're going to see you on stage.
I'm very excited to share more about the journey.
Absolutely. I'm very excited to see you there as well. And one of the things that I love about Shoptalk, this version of Shoptalk, and I've been to many in different countries, is that most of their lineup are women.
Yes.
And the main stage is women only keynotes, which is very exciting.
Very
How
exciting.
do you feel about other women in leadership? Because as we were talking before, the founders were in a time that it wasn't that common to see working women. How was it in your career? Did you have the support, other women to support you? How was that?
Yeah, most definitely the answer is yes. And, many people talk about their concept of their personal board of directors. And when you think about the people that sit around that table, there are definitely key women throughout my career that have helped make me who I am today and continue to. I am very lucky. I work for a female-founded brand. I work for a female CEO. We have the majority of our board is female as well. So it's very empowering to be able to both personally and professionally be focused on female.
Yeah, I'm very excited. Like they're gonna have the meetups as well, so we can network. And,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very excited for that. And you come across very passionate about what you do. I think it's beyond Vera Bradley. It's Alison, who is very passionate about branding.
Yes.
How did you find out about this passion? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, it's really interesting because what I spend a lot of time thinking about, and always have, even growing up, is as consumers, why do we like what we like? And what draws us to things. And I find that absolutely fascinating, whether it's evergreen, those things that we've always loved, or it's new trends. Like, why? Why do we do that? And what drives that? And I think that's really the excitement of life, these new surprises. That's why I love retail too. I mean, that's all about, retail. We're basically putting on this play, if you will, of products and a store environment or a website, and like, what is that experience? And then you're coming out with this bag of things that you will love.
Literally bag.
Take forward. Literally a bag. You will take away a bag. But I find that really fascinating, and the commonality there is completely having a growth mindset, always discovering, always new, marketing and branding. As soon as you think you're done, you are out of date. Like, you constantly have to be thinking about how things are changing. And, we've had conversations that's happening even faster on many more fronts. The trends don't seem to last as longer as well. So that's also causing things to move faster. So you really have to be on your game because we have no shortage of choice as consumers. And so how do you really make sure that your brand stands out and creates this unique moment to capture somebody's attention enough for them to say, yes, I'm gonna give you money and I'm gonna show my love for what you're doing. There's something very, very exciting and challenging about that. But it really is what makes me tick, is how do you give that delight to a customer, whether it's through the product or the experience or what have you, and how do you keep that relevant and fresh and moving forward?
Well, I think keeping that relevance and stay so tuned into like what the MarTech is happening, or what the new social media is doing, what the new consumers are doing. That demands a lot of the CMO. I don't know, like the tenure of a CMO now is like, I don't know. So
2.5 seconds, it feels like, or whatever.
It makes it so challenging. What do you think makes a good CMO today?
Good people on your team. The breadth of what, even when I go back and think about my 25 to 30 year career and what I was focused on from a marketer to what I'm focused on now, the level of complexity is just exponential, as we all know. And it is impossible for one person to stay on top of all of that. So you need to find good people on your team that are also eager about intellectual challenge, finding the new, keeping up to date on what's going on, not resting on the laurels of like, well, we figured that out, now we can move on. Like, how do you find that team that continues to push the envelope, continues to think, is fast, is nimble, is learning and growing? Because you are really, at a CMO, finding so many different fronts, if you will, of
you can
ways.
Specialize in everything.
You could specialize in everything. So finding really, really good people that are really on top of their game, and then you as the CMO knowing how to pull that team together and sort of be a conductor, orchestra, if you will, but also making sure that you're asking the right questions and looking around the corners and cross-pollinating ideas. So one part of your team might think this and another part's this. It's like, great, 1 + 1 = 11. You guys get in a room and start talking about it. So making those connections with the right people is the way in which, as a CMO, you have to move forward, in my opinion.
Yeah, and as a leader, you have to give the space for people to collaborate and risk, and right? Like,
Exactly.
Who is a CMO or CEO that you really admire and that should be here on the show with me?
Oh, interesting. So I'm going to go with the CEO because I have a lot of friends that are CMOs and I cannot leave anyone out, if you will, because they're all fascinating, right? I love them all. Okay. But from a CEO standpoint, one of the women, and I've actually years ago when I was at Starbucks had the opportunity to work with her, is Michelle Goss. And she recently became CEO of Levi's. Unbelievable, because if you look at that, she also has a fantastic brand, a brand that has stood the test of time in a world.
Very one today.
Exactly, that has a lot of brand love, a lot of brand awareness, and how do you make sure that that brand continues to move forward? So I'm very interested to see what she does going forward, because again, it's a great brand and a very, very increasingly competitive market, similar to bags from when Levi's started to now and when Vera started to now. So I really look forward to watching what's happening. And then similarly, with the Gap and their new CEO, I think they're another area of opportunity to say, okay, how do they think about, for their particular Gap brand? I know they have a house of brands, but that particular brand, how do they go forward too?
Interesting. I'm curious too. And I know that you have an experience on Starbucks, which
yes.
they will have to go through. That was the episode today. That was the episode today. They were talking about what is going to happen.
That's another one too. I mean, and it shows you, because you think about, you bring up these companies and you think, oh, they could do no wrong X number of years ago. And then now you look at it. So it comes in cycles. And our job is to make sure that you continue to weather those cycles and storms and then continue to get back out there.
All right. We unfortunately have to finish this conversation.
Yes.
But yeah, we should have booked 4 hours for this interview. I'm very excited to see you again in Chicago.
Yes,
then.
likewise.
But what would be your advice to someone that is starting in a career now? Like how they should pursue their career and their mindset to become a leader like you?
Again, focusing on growth, experimenting, trial, go work in different industries. I feel very fortunate that I've always been consumer focused, direct to consumer, but have worked in coffee, ice cream, pets, kids clothing, outdoor goods, variety of different industries. And each one of them has really helped me hone skills and think more complete about consumers in general. And so I think it's really make sure, stay hungry, stay curious, explore, test yourself, try new things, ask questions, and network. It truly is about networking and getting to know people and their experiences.
And we will do that in Chicago. Thank you so much for joining me here. It was a pleasure. And see you soon.
Thank you so much.
I had a a wonderful conversation with Alison. I'm very excited for what's to come in Chicago. And for next week, you can expect my conversation with Luciana Rodenbush, who is the president of Pandora, another brand changing a lot and bringing customer loyalty. See you next Tuesday.